Do you like cosplay? Have you ever thought about competing in a cosplay contest, also known as a masquerade? Does this sound like an infomercial? Yeah. But don't worry, we're gonna take this, we're gonna throw it right in the trash. You have come to the right place. Because my name is Mad Dog, and welcome to my little cosplay YouTube channel where I do a lot of cosplay stuff. And for the entire month of January on this channel, I will be discussing cosplay competitions. This week, we're gonna talk about what it means to be a competitor in a convention masquerade. And as usual, timestamps are in the description if you wanna bounce around. So, every contest is a little bit different, and you should expect different things from each one that you compete in. That is why I keep saying all over this series, read the rules. And you should totally do that. The rules are going to answer a lot of questions about what to expect in your specific contest. Like what day the actual contest is held on, and if there is pre-judging and rehearsal time. Or how much of the costume you need to make yourself if you're competing in something like the craftsmanship category. I don't know the specifics for your con, so it's kind of useless for me to try and guess. Read the rules and find out for yourself! But I can tell you that there is a sort of schedule that conventions often stick to these days. Before I get into that though, I want to say up front, expect any contest that you enter to take a significant amount of time out of your convention weekend. This can be anywhere from, an afternoon of the convention to a huge chunk of it, like a multi-day thing. Depending on when your pre-judging time is compared to your rehearsal time, if you have that, and just overall call time, like it can really add up. And this can be really harsh to hear if you're like casually interested in contests or you're really hesitant to commit. But it's true, and you deserve to know well in advance. If this major loss of convention time sounds like the absolute worst to you, don't feel bad if you choose not to compete. It's not for everyone, and it definitely does not have to be for you. I personally kind of hate how much time goes into cosplay contests because I want to spend my time at the convention with friends having fun, but it's kind of the nature of the beast, and I like contests enough that I can essentially bear with it every so often. I balance out my want to partake in a contest and also, hang out with friends at a convention by only doing contests roughly every other con season. So on average, I've done one contest every 2 years since I started competing. This has worked really well for me in the past, although I will say this year I kind of want to try competing with my group of friends specifically, so it's like the competition and friends at the same time, just to see if that might help this balance as well. But I encourage you to think about the things that you value in your convention experience and find your own balance among them. On to the general schedule. This will be different for every contest, but generally you can expect to first find yourself having to check in at Masquerade HQ. This is usually something that you do as soon as possible, like as soon as you get your badge and wander into the convention. Because if you don't, the coordinators may replace you with somebody on a waitlist. It's their job to make sure that the masquerade runs smoothly and that they fill all of the time allotted for it. So if you never check in and they think there's time to fill, they're gonna fill it. But it really ain't that hard. Like usually you just wander over and you're like, hi, I'm here. And then staff is like, neat. And maybe then they might give you like a little backstage pass if that's needed. Like, it's different for each con. After that, you're gonna have to show up on time for and participate in pre-judging and or performance rehearsal. This will depend a little bit on your contest and what category or categories you're competing in, but if one or both of these things is necessary for your contest, you need to show up for them. Just like with check-in, if you don't show up for them, you will likely be disqualified and replaced with someone waiting patiently on a waitlist. Obviously, if you're running late, inform staff, life happens. And overall, if you're communicative and kind about the situation, staff will probably do their best to accommodate you. But if you just don't show up, expect disqualification. I talked a ton about what goes into prejudging in my first video of the year, and a ton on what goes into performance and performance judging in the collab that I just did last week with Mink the Satyr. So if you're interested in doing a deeper dive into those pieces of the competition, do check out those videos. Before it's time for the contest, you may be asked to step aside and into a photo suite to take professional photos for promotional purposes if you happen to win, or even sometimes quick casual photos for the judges to refer back to when they're doing their judging. And those photos will never see the light of day outside the judges' room. In my experience, this photo thing's pretty 50-50. but generally they'll mention it in the rules that you have to agree to before you even apply. So after having read the rules, you'll know whether to expect it. All of the things that I've mentioned so far may or may not happen on the day of the contest itself. There are usually quite a few competitors to give judging time and rehearsal time to, so these may be spread out throughout the weekend. But eventually you'll get to the day of the contest and you'll be given a pre-masquerade call time, where you will have to check into a green room, i.e. a backstage waiting room for folks, or you know, just a space similar to a green room, maybe Masquerade HQ itself. And then you'll wait there with your fellow contestants. You're called in advance so that once again, staff can make sure that everything is running smoothly. And also make sure that no one needs any last minute replacing. Just all before the seating for the masquerade opens and the masquerade itself starts. At some point during the masquerade, you will go on stage and you'll do your little masquerade thing. And after that, you'll be expected to sit and watch through the entire rest of the masquerade, the intermission, and the awards ceremony. Be sure to be a good sport and cheer on your fellow competitors, or, you know, chat in the green room during this time. If you happen to win something during the awards ceremony, you'll be asked to go back up on stage just to accept your award, and you may be asked to stick around for a few minutes after the awards ceremony is complete to take a couple more promotional photos and videos at like the convention's discretion. And that's it. That's the whole masquerade experience from start to finish. Except it isn't quite, because that leaves out what it's gonna be like interacting with all the other people who are involved in this. And that I cannot predict for you. Usually staff and your fellow competitors are incredibly kind. You're voluntarily participating in a convention event. Everyone also participating in one way or another generally wants everyone else to have a great time because it affects the time that they're having. So when you sit in the green room and talk to everyone in there, that's usually one of the best parts of the cosplay contest. Because everyone is just as excited about cosplay as you are, and you can connect and interact so quickly because of that. But okay, so this is also the part where I do have to tell you that unfortunately, cosplay competitions can bring out some weird stuff in people, and also just kind of weird people. And you may in fact meet a fellow competitor who is just a total egotistical in the green room. All competitions can have people like this. And if you've done any sort of competitive sport or just, you know, something competitive before, you may already have a good grasp on how to deal with people like this. Regardless of past experiences, you may have to deal with this, and it may be a less than stellar time. In my personal opinion, this potential for meeting egotistical people during the competition is the thing that I'm always the most nervous about when competing. Because who the wants to run into someone like this when you just want to go out there, do your best, and celebrate the hobby that you love? But also in my personal experience, I haven't actually met somebody truly like this, although that may be just because of how I look at my fellow competitors. I always strive to have immense respect for my fellow competitors, and I always fully assume that they're there because they love and want to celebrate cosplay just as much as I do. Because to be really fair, they probably do. And when I make this assumption, a lot of that, like, sus behavior really just reads as nerves instead of, like, the dreaded egotistical bullshit. Like I said moments ago, contests can bring out weird things in people. And a lot of that is really just because people are nervous. I myself can get very closed off in the green room, or only feel comfortable talking to the people that I already know there, because I'm in general already pretty socially anxious, so then adding the nerves of a competition on top of that just makes me so much more anxious. And yeah, I kind of shut down. If you see someone not talking much, kind of, you know, avoiding eye contact with the other contestants, you can always be cynical as hell and just read that as ego. Or you could be a little bit optimistic and read it as nerves. With me, it's just nerves. There's no confidence here. There's no confidence, let alone actual ego. It's just nerves. You know, for someone else, it might genuinely be ego, but I'd always prefer to treat my fellow competitors with respect and also assume that for them it's just nerves as well. So when I see people blurting out cocky remarks, I assume they're nervous and putting their foot in their mouth. When I see people with headphones on, ignoring the entire room, I assume that they're nervous and they're trying to calm down. When I see people non-stop talking to staff or others, just almost interrogating them about what's gonna happen, I assume they're nervous and just trying to be more prepared. I would highly recommend giving your fellow competitors that benefit of doubt. Most of the people you meet will be great people, but people can act strangely under pressure. Usually that's all it is though, not ego. Hey, be prepared for all of this. Before you ever get started, I would seriously recommend thinking over these common to-be-expected scenarios often seen at contests. Take advantage of how well you know yourself, and mull over how you might act in regards to all of these expectations. This will allow you to make accommodations for yourself, from simple things like making sure you bring extra snacks and extra waters for long days, to much larger things like reaching out to the contest coordinators and seeing if you can get a +1 because you've just realized you will most definitely need a cosplay handler. And be prepared for the possibility that things may not go exactly according to plan, either on your end or on the contest's end. Events, especially big events like cosplay competitions, are always in flux, so no matter what life throws at you or the convention, take it with grace. Be kind to staff and your fellow competitors, and of course yourself. Alright, so these expectations and preparedness, like they're cool and whatever, but how does one actually get started? I can give a lot of suggestions, like non-stop ideas. Like, pick a character that you care about. Or pick a character that you care about but also has an interesting outfit. I can tell you, you're probably going to appreciate having a comfortable costume on the con floor for the days when you're not competing so that you can feel at your best when you are. And I can also tell you to plan a serious amount of crafting time, and even recommend wearing the costume at a totally different con to test run it before you compete. But all these things are suggestions that are going to be really subjective to you and the processes that work best for you. And while I really thought about making a video that was like full of these suggestions, hoping that people might find one that would like stand out to them, I don't think that's actually going to be the most helpful like learning experience. I think that the actual best thing you can do is to take everything you've learned from this discussion and maybe my other competition discussions and maybe even my vlogged experiences, and answer these questions for yourself based on the things you've learned here and the things that you care about. If you're overwhelmed about where to start, somewhere in your knowledge of yourself, you know way better than I do what you need to do to give yourself that good first competition experience. You know the accommodations you need. You know if you need to reach out to the coordinators and ask questions. You know if you need to start really small, or you may know that you've been crafting just so long that you can jump straight into the Masters category. Trust in yourself and go for it. Okay, that's neat, but also, what if you're too overwhelmed to have that moment of introspection? Especially because you're afraid of failure. I've said before that I don't think wanting to win is inherently bad, and to add to that now, not wanting to lose and feel like a failure isn't inherently bad either. But I don't think you should be competing if that's all you can think about. Like, yo, I'm not just saying what I'm saying to set you up for failure. Like, there's no secret formula that I'm like withholding from you, because competitions like this are really subjective, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But I don't believe that losing the competition is a failure. So if you're like really this up in your own head, I encourage you to take a step back. Remember that masquerades are a celebration of cosplay, and know that if you go out there and you celebrate it in your own way, you will have been successful. I know certain anxieties are like easier to wrangle than others, like some are a lifelong struggle. But genuinely, if you celebrate cosplay, you are a success. And if you want to have a good time competing, win or lose, I think you need to wrap your head around that idea at least to a degree. For real, folks, celebrate cosplay and you'll be a success. You can do this. Well, everyone, that's it for this week's video. Tune in next week for our final cosplay competition video of January. And if you just can't wait that long and need more cosplay videos now, check out the rest of this channel, but especially check out last week's video, where I collaborated with Mink the Satyr to bring you a video talking about what goes on behind the scenes in performance judging. As I'm not really a performer, it was wonderful to get to have this conversation with Mink, and she has some really amazing things to say. If you like this video, give it a like, help YouTube to figure out that my cosplay channel is in fact a cosplay channel, because YouTube is dumb. And until next time, I will see you on the con floor. It's actually Katsu next, just for the record. Going to Katsucon next.